Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all. My name is John Ferrara. I'm the CEO of Nimble, and this is an ongoing series of webinars of how we can help you become better, smarter, faster. I often say that if you teach people to fish, they'll figure out you sell fishing poles. So rather than on a regular basis us just talking about how great Nimble is, we like to teach you how to be great. And we figure if you do that, that you'll figure out that we actually make good fishing poles to help you to do what we're teaching you to do. And with that said, that's why we have Stu Henneke. Stu, say hello to the audience.
Hi, everyone. And it's Stu Heineck, actually.
Heineck. Thank you. I should have worked on that before. I apologize. Stu, what is your heritage? Was that Dutch or German?
Well, Heineke is a German name, or it's very close to Heineken, though, isn't it? And so, but otherwise, Norwegian descent.
Nice, nice. We share some ancestry that we could talk about at
Oh,
another time.
nice, nice.
So let's talk about you. Let's introduce you. So let's go to your intro slide.
There it
So
is.
Stu, I think the reason why you stand out to me as somebody who is so capable of teaching people how to get through the door is that you make it fun and you make it funny. And I think that's a really great way to stand out. I think that too many people send bland messages in emails that just get ignored because they just look like everybody else's.
Hmm.
And if I could visualize what you do, you're like the person that sends a box that has a pyramid shape to it, so they can't just put it in a pile and have it disappear. Your stuff just stands out. You teach people how to get through the door, and you did that with me by sending me a beautiful a graphic that was
Oh,
personalized
yeah,
to
that's
me, and I
right.
think personalization is critical.
Yeah. By the way, where is that? Is it up in your
It's in
office?
the office.
Perfect. I love that.
Yes,
That's what you're
everybody
supposed to
sees it
do.
whenever they come in.
Beautiful.
So that's why we invited you here today, and you certainly on a regular basis are teaching and preaching around the world as a noted speaker and through your agency from your what island are you in the Pacific Northwest?
I'm on Whidbey Island, a little bit north of Seattle. It's gorgeous here, and it's a beautiful
For those
day
that
too.
don't know the Pacific Northwest, I once chartered a 35-foot boat out of Anacortes and got a home on Friday Island with a dock. And that was my car to tour around those islands. And they're just spectacular, filled with killer whales and dolphins and sea otters and shrimp and starfish and everything else. So let's
Yeah,
talk
it's
a little
beautiful.
bit about myself for those that don't know me. My name's John Ferrara. I'm the CEO of Nimble. Before I started Nimble, I helped pioneer contact management and CRM before Outlook or Salesforce existed with a company called Goldmine. That was back in the DOS days, disk operating system. And I got back in the business because I saw how social media was changing the way we work, play, buy, and sell. And I thought that we need a reimagined relationship manager that was focused on relationships as opposed to reporting. And that's why I built Nimble. But today we're here to talk about how to get through the door. So, Stu, why don't you take us away with the agenda?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, we can see it here. It's how to identify the people that matter to us and can move the needle. Really, that can change our the scale of our careers and business. I'm going to show you some tools, but actually, I'm going to show you some stories. Really, some great stories about how. Well, I'll share with you one of my stories, a couple of my stories actually, the direct stories with using cartoons to break through, but also others just to show you. This is not just about cartooning; it's about how to get meetings and how to break through to people who can change everything. And you've mentioned here that because I didn't make this slide actually, I'm going to say, but campaigns with ROIs as much as 5 million%. It's actually higher than that, John. The record is 69,500,000% ROI. Isn't that just
Wow.
crazy? That's
Wow.
just nuts. So, well, why don't I just jump in? Um, my headline probably says it all. One meeting really can change everything. And if you think about every great result that's happened in your life, all of the great results that have happened in all of our lives, they've all happened because we've made connections. Things don't happen without connections. And we also know that it's, well, we just did the poll. It's hard to reach people who can change our scale. And so we need to find ways to create flip moments to cause people to go from, when you reach out to them, who, someone, let's say someone they don't know, they're saying, well, who is this? So going from who is this to, whoa, who is this? Wow. So I have a video here that I want to share with you. This is one of my cartoon contact devices. It's in a wooden box. My signature is laser engraved on the front. It's a really cool piece, and it's it's what I call a big board. It's another version of the big board that I sent you, John, earlier that we just talked about. That's up in your office. And this one is a strip cartoon multi-panel, and it's all personalized by hand. The thing that's really excited about this video is this is that flip moment when they went from who's this to, oh my God, who is this? So I just want to share that with you real quickly. Let's see if we can get that to work.
I usually wait till you get here, Bill, to show your packages, but this one's pretty cool and I'm too anxious to wait and show you. So here's the reveal. If I can get the cap on. Read how awesome this is. The Tale of the Hired Gun. I ever tell you fellas the story of Billy Kid? Yep, sure did. How about Wild Bill Jean? You mean the marketing miss from San Diego? At least 100 times before. Yep, you can say that again. Look at the back. I'm kind of in love with this guy. Mad respect.
Well, I got to admit, I'm kind of in love with her too, because this is a great moment. This is when a contact campaign, a contact marketing device opens the door, and that's what we're looking to do. So we talked a little bit about the agenda, but I also wanted to sort of separately say I've got a bold promise for you. The first is that I'm gonna have you walking away from this having some ideas, some new ideas on how to connect with everyone. We just did the poll. That was fascinating to watch what your answers were. What we can see though is that a lot of times it is difficult and sometimes almost impossible to break through to the people who can change everything. And by that, I mean we still see the poll results up over here on the sidebar here, that roughly 75% or 80%, yeah, 80, not roughly, it is 80%, are saying that these deals are worth $100,000 or less, mostly. 20% are 20% are saying they're 100,000 or more. And that's exciting because if we can break through to these people, the people who could become some of our dream clients, those do change a lot for us. So we need to find ways to break through, and you're going to come away with some of those, see some really interesting ideas. It's a fun, fascinating process. And the next part is that we're going to talk about how to find who we should be connecting with. That's a really important part of this. So you could have the coolest, for example, in my case, the coolest cartoon piece, but if I don't send it to the right person, or if I have no one to send it to, then it's not going to do anything. So we're going to talk about that because it turns out Nimble's a great tool for that, and we want to explore that. And we happen to have a ringer here. We have John with us, the founder of Nimble. So that's going to be really exciting. And then finally, I've got a special gift at the conclusion of the talk. Now, usually speakers will say, I've got a special gift, and I'll tell you what it is at the end of the talk so that we keep you with us the whole time. And of course, I want you to stay with us the whole time, but I want you thinking the whole time. One of the poll questions we asked was, do you have a surefire method for breaking through? Well, what I'm looking for are some stories, some really interesting stories of how perhaps you've broken through using something really clever and audacious, or perhaps how someone else has broken through to you using something clever and audacious, and I want you to share those stories with me. Now, I'm not saying I sent an email and I got the meeting, or I just knocked on the door and got the meeting, or I sent a shoe and said, I want to get my foot in the door. Not those. I want to hear some really, really great stories. You're going to hear some great stories also. You're going to see some here in a moment, but I want to hear some of your stories. It's really interesting because when I get to talk to people in person, I'll ask the group, hey, does anyone, usually there are people in this audience or in the audience who have great stories of how they've broken through, and it really sort of can come to redefine things for us. So does anyone have a story they can share? And sometimes the most incredible stories pop up. One of those is coming up in my presentation here, but I want to see if we have some of those among our group here today. So I'm giving away up to 10 signed copies of my new book, Get the Meeting, at the conclusion of the talk, but you got to send me your story, got to share it. So you could share it in your questions throughout the presentation, or at the end when we're going to talk about, or we're going to answer questions, or you can send it to me later. But that's my special gift. So stick with me and let's jump on in. So I want to tell you, I want to share my story. This is how I first got involved with what I call contact marketing. Very early in my career, I wanted to create. I had a degree in marketing, and I was a cartoonist, so a beginning cartoonist. And and also personalization was just becoming a factor in direct mail. So I wanted to create direct mail campaigns for the big magazine publishers. They were the biggest, most sophisticated users of direct marketing at the time, and they had the biggest budgets. That was the big arena. So I got two assignments right off the bat, from one for Rolling Stone and one from Bon Appetit. And so I created test campaigns. Both of those campaigns beat their controls. And for anyone who doesn't know what that means, in statistics, you always test against a control group, a constant. In direct marketing, that control group is the most effective thing they've ever put in the mail. So if you tie the control, that means you just tied the record for the most response they've ever gotten. If you beat the control, oh my God, you just set the new record. So here I was, a rookie walking on the field, and I hit 2 Grand Slam home runs right off the bat with my cartoon pieces. And I knew this was going to work because I knew that people loved cartoons. And I mean, they're the best read and remembered parts of magazines and newspapers. That's according to readership surveys. So people love cartoons. I knew they were going to love the personalization. I knew it was going to work. And so these first 2 campaigns proved it. Well, then I thought, okay, this is my opportunity to break into the rest of the publishing industry. What that meant was I needed to reach about 24 VPs and directors of circulation or of consumer marketing. And I didn't know what to do. I thought, well, okay, I've got to send something. So I sent this. I sent a letter with an 8x10 print of a cartoon. Each cartoon was personalized to each recipient. I don't know if you can read it. This is a vendor, a sidewalk vendor, selling peanuts. It's probably salted peanuts, and they've encountered one of those guys who's crawling through the desert, and so one of the peanut vendor is saying to his friend, "I got the idea when I read somewhere that Scott Zahn could sell an igloo to an Eskimo," and so Scott would, he would enjoy that. The letter, though, said, "This is the device I just used to beat the controls for Rolling Stone and Bon Appetit, and I think we should put this to the test for your titles." Now, this campaign, I didn't know what to call it, so I called it I had to call it something. So I called it a contact campaign, and my contact campaign went out, and this is usually, again, the point where if I was speaking to a live audience in a room, I would ask, well, what do you think I got for a response? I'm going to just ask you to think about that, because, in direct mail and direct response, they used to say, maybe they still do, I haven't been involved for quite a while now, but they used to say that a 1% response rate was kind of a typical response rate. And I would say there is no such number, but let's use it for a moment, a 1% response rate. They also used to say that 100% response rates were absolutely impossible. And if you think about response rates that we see in, let's say, digital marketing, where click-through rates can be thousands of a percent, I often ask the audience, what do you think I got for a response to this campaign? And well, I ended up getting 100% response rate. All of the publishers became clients. So I got through to them. We all met. I met with all of them. All of them became clients. So it was 100% response rate and 100% conversion rate to a campaign that went to 24 people, and I spent maybe less than $100 to make. And it was worth millions of dollars. It launched my company, and it all came from a campaign that cost me less than $100. Well, that's kind of a great starting example of what the nature of contact marketing actually is, because it's these campaigns that are directed at the people who can change our scale. So we're really talking about quite a low volume. In fact, I always talk in my books about compiling a list of your top 100 dream clients and prospects. And what it can be is, I mean, these campaigns can be a campaign of as few as to one person. So certainly it's low volume compared to other forms of marketing, but the response rates are ultra high response rates. And we start with a negligible campaign cost, because we're talking about going to, you know, small groups of people. It's really not very many people. So you could spend a lot per person, a shocking amount per person, and still end up with an incredibly high ROI. And ultimately, all of these things are scale-changing results. So let's take a look at what this is also. You know, really, when I first had that experience of sending the contact campaign to all of the publishers and breaking through to all of them, I'm getting 100% response rate. By the way, I didn't even tell people for quite a long time, because, you know, in direct marketing, you're not supposed to get 100% response rates. They're supposed to be impossible. So I didn't even talk about it for quite a long time, but I did get really curious about, oh my God, I got through to all of them. Well, how far can this go? And I ended up sending contact pieces to, I don't know, celebrities, and I reached presidents and prime ministers, and lots of C-level executives and top decision makers over time. But I also realized that, you know, I'm not the only one who's met this challenge. I met it with cartoons, but you know, we've all had this challenge. How do we break through? And I discovered that there are just piles and piles and piles of stories of audacious wins out there, things that people had done that were they're so crazy and they're so entertaining, really, that they use these things to break through. It's just incredible. So it really is a shadow form of marketing. That's what contact marketing is. I would say it's a shadow form of marketing, because it's really been in existence for many years. When I interviewed the top 100 sales thought leaders in the world for my first book, How to Get a Meeting with Anyone, and I asked them, how are you breaking through? When you have to break through to someone who's just impossible to reach, what are you doing? And they've shared their stories with me and their techniques with me. But then I asked, well, what do we call this? What is this thing that we're doing called? No one had a name for it. So I ended up getting to name it contact marketing. I had to call it something in the book. So I named it contact marketing in the book. And so that's what it is. It's a shadow form of marketing. I didn't invent it, but I've sort of chronicled it and continue to do that. We're going to do that a little bit today with your stories. But that's what it is. It produces metrics that are just crazy. I'm saying response as high as 100%. And in fact, in my new book, in Get the Meeting, I'm actually saying we should set 100% as the baseline for our response to our contact marketing campaigns, which is a crazy statement. I realize it's marketing heresy, but there are actually reasons why I believe that should be happening. But we also will see response, so response rates as high as 100%. Actually, we've seen response go higher than that. And you can imagine how that happens. I just showed you the video of Billie Jean's assistant opening up my package. I'm sure they've shown it around to a few more people. And when that happens, that evangelism can actually cause other people to respond to your campaign. So you can actually get response rates that are higher than 100%. It's really a bizarre form of marketing all around. The ROI that we expect to see on these campaigns is somewhere in the tens to hundreds of thousands of percent. But the record, as you can see, is 69,500,000%. That's a number. All of these numbers are really they're just difficult numbers to wrap your head around. But that's what contact marketing is producing. So finally, here's a definition of contact marketing, my definition of it. It's micro-focused campaigns that are designed to create contact with high-value accounts and prospects, often with an extremely high response rate and ROI. That's contact marketing. But that's all kind of dry, isn't it? I mean, what we really want to see, what's really fun are what are people doing to break through? So let's take a look at, I brought 4 more stories to share with you. So this first one is Dan Waldschmidt's sword campaign. Now, Dan is Dan's a really interesting, amazing guy. I know, John, I know you know Dan, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure you know him.
You bet.
Yeah. So, well, Dan is he's just a stunning person because he's not only is he one of the top sales bloggers in the world, he writes the blogs Edgy Conversations, but he's also an ultra competitive athlete. He runs 100-mile races and he wins these things. I can't even imagine running one. And I'm in pretty good shape, but he runs 100-mile races and wins. So he has in his brand, in his personal brand, aspects of knife's edge, sort of I don't know, just sort of sharp edges and then ultra competitiveness, which is great because what he does for a living is he's a turnaround specialist, and he has this fascinating method for reaching the people he needs to reach to sell his services. He needs to reach CEOs of companies that are in distress. And so the way that he does this is he combs the business news every morning for stories of missed earnings estimates. And when he finds one, he has a sword made up, this beautiful sword right here that you see. This thing is made by the prop maker who made all the swords for the movie Gladiator. And you can see there's an inscription. This one's a little bit different than what he'll actually send, because he'll have it inscribed with the CEO's name, and then you can see it on the well, if you can't see it, I'll read it to you. If you're not all in, you're not in at all. That's one of Dan's favorite expressions. And so that's all put in this beautiful wooden box with a handwritten note. And the note says, well, let's say he was sending it to someone named Bob. So Bob, business is war, and I noticed you lost a battle recently. I just wanted to let you know, if you ever need a few extra hands in battle, we've got your back. Well, isn't this amazing? This is an example of using a visual metaphor. The sword is a visual metaphor. There's a lot of messaging tied up in the sword as a metaphor, because there's Dan's edgy conversations or edginess in the edge, the knife's edge of the sword, although they're not sharpened, thankfully, but that knife's edge aspect, and he's ready to go to battle for you. He knows you're in a battle, and he's ready to go in and die with you. That's really powerful. And the fact that the note that he sends with the sword is also powerful. It's all just done in handwriting, and it turns out that handwritten notes are a theme that run throughout a lot of these campaigns that work so well. And the thing that I think is really interesting here is that you might think that because the note is written by hand on a clean sheet of paper, there's no logo on it, there's nothing like that. It's just a note from Dan to you as the CEO of this company. And you might say that there's no branding happening here, but I would argue that there is incredibly powerful branding happening here because of the visual metaphor and because of his very, very personal outreach. Well, we're not standing in front of each other, so I won't ask you to guess. I'll just tell you that Dan is getting 100% response rate to this campaign. I'm not suggesting, by the way, that you go out and send swords, because this relates to Dan. This is part of Dan. This is part of Dan's brand personality, and I don't think swords probably are for everybody else. But here it works just perfectly. So 100% response rate. He spends $1,000 every time he puts one of these pieces out. So that's pretty outrageous, but not so outrageous when you realize that every assignment he gets for a turnaround engagement is worth $1 million and up. So it makes sense, and he's thriving with this. So really, really interesting. One of my favorite examples of using visual metaphors as a way to break through. But when Dan is spending $1,000 to break through, here's another story. Rick Tobin, who spends $4 on a cupcake. I mentioned earlier that that when I speak to groups, I love to ask, hey, does anyone have a story of how you broke through or how someone broke through to you? And so I was giving a speech once in Miami, and I asked that question before we started, and this fellow raised his hand and just sheepishly said, well, yeah, I have a pretty good story, but I don't know, you're going to think it's kind of stupid. I said, no, let's hear it. Come on. He said, well, all right, I'm in commercial real estate, and I had this prospect that I really, really wanted to connect with, but I was trying everything I could think of. I was sending faxes, dropping by, leaving notes, sending cards, sending letters, emails, whatever. Nothing was working. So one day he realized that the fellows, we'll call him Bob again. So Bob's birthday was coming up it was coming up tomorrow, the next day. So he thought, okay, in the morning, I'm going to stop by the bakery. I'm going to pick up a cupcake and I'll have them put a birthday candle in it. I won't have them light it actually, but I'll put the birthday candle in it and I have them put that in and put it in a nice box, and I'll just go over and drop it off. And so that's what he did. Next morning, got this lovely little cupcake, had to put it in a box with a birthday candle in it, and he walked into Bob's lobby, and the receptionist was all ready to throw Rick out because she's already encountered him. And he said, well, wait, hold on a second. I'm just here to drop this off for Bob. It's his birthday. And he hands her the box. Well, she opens the box and he sees her face go from a scowl, because she's ready to just chop his head off. She went from a scowl to a big smile and said, oh my God, isn't that so cute? Hold on a second. Let me see if Bob can see you now. She went in the back room and then came back out with Bob. Bob said, man, I'm so sorry, Rick, that it's been so hard to reach me. I appreciate your follow-up, and come on back with me. Tell me what you do. And so Rick emerged from that meeting that morning with a $200,000 deal. Well, that's kind of neat because, if you divide $200,000 by the cost of a cupcake, I guess it's probably $4. You come up with actually, what you do is you divide $200,000 by $4 to buy the cupcake, or the cost of a cupcake, and then multiply by 100, and I get a 5 million% ROI, and that's probably about right. Here's just this simple gift, which is another category of contact marketing campaign types. It's a gift. It's a thoughtful gift. It required a little bit of research because this was relevant to the recipient's or the target's birth date. And there was this little gift opened up the door. And I think that's pretty incredible. So gifts are a great form of gifts are a great form of contact campaigns as well. Well, this next one goes in a completely different direction. Ryan O'Hara is, I think he's VP of sales now at Lead IQ, but a few years ago, he was one of the SDRs or sales development reps. And they were coming up at the end of the year. They were coming up on this time when it's really kind of a doldrum for selling for them. I mean, December, everyone's leaving for vacation and the holidays, and so he approached his boss at the time and he said, you know what, I want to try something. Rather than just making phone calls and not having anybody answer, I want to take this time to produce something else. I want to create some videos and we'll hire a string quartet. They found them on Craigslist, I think. We'll hire a string quartet and have them play Christmas music, and we will record sort of a pre-roll of an introduction from each SDR to each person that we're trying to reach, saying, hi, we'll keep using Bob's name. Hi, Bob. Listen, we've been wanting to talk with you and talk to you about what we do and how we help people, how we help teams sell more effectively. But right now, I just wanted to give you a quick interlude of music that you might enjoy. So here's one of Ryan's videos.
Hey Matt, a lot of reps would love to be more creative when it comes to prospecting, but it just takes too much time to find prospects' contact data, get it into their sales tools, and get to the point where they're actually ready to go. We fix this by giving them a tool that actually cuts out all the annoying parts of prospecting so they can focus on doing cool things for their prospects. Kind of like this.
Now notice he's going into a dark room. This is important. It's important for scalability. And I should mention that they worked so well that they said, okay, let's make this workable throughout the year. So now they're playing rock tunes. In reply back to John at Lead IQ. It's great. It's cute. It's and it continues. I won't play the whole song, but it continues. And isn't this a wonderful way? Isn't this just a wonderful way to do a couple of things? One is that Ryan says that when you personalize something, he believes that you've got to personalize it not only to the person, but also from you. So you've got to have your fingerprints all over it. Well, and Ryan is just kind of this wild and crazy guy with video. And so they injected their personality into this. And I think that's just a brilliant use of video as a device to break through. And break through it did, because what they ended up seeing was an 83% booked meeting rate from this. And that's way up. I can't remember what, it might have been something like 10% before from just cold calling, but an 83% booked meeting rate. And the CEO of Hulu also reached out to him, and he liked what he saw so much that he sent it to CNN and Fortune and all sorts of all of the networks. And so it was played on the networks. The whole campaign cost $900 to set it up. And then they've been spending $200 a month, or had been since, and it produced an immediate $40,000 recurring monthly revenue. Well, that's a pretty good return on investment. And of course, they've continued with this. Ryan has been doing all kinds of things. He's a great guy to follow. And so you see his name, Ryan O'Hara. Follow his stuff as well. It's just really amazing. I think it's really, I just like Ryan's use of video, of course, another form of contact marketing campaign type, but also just his perspective that, people are not companies, they're people, and I believe the same thing. That's why I send cartoons, and they're about each person. If you recognize the person and you do something in a way that, I don't know if this is actually doing it, but if you're delivering insights in an insightful way, certainly cartoons can do that. And the visual metaphors are doing that. There's a lot of these things that they're much more significant than the item would initially suggest, because of the effect that they have. Okay, one more story. See if we can get that to go. There we go. One more story. So my first book, How to Get a Meeting with Anyone, came out in 2016, and I was a first-time author. It was an incredible experience because, really, when a book comes out, you hope that someone will even pay attention to it and buy it and read it. I mean, that's a big, tall ask. There are a lot of books that come out. So if someone's reading it and buying it, that's pretty cool. But if you actually start hearing from people who've read it and it's changing their lives, that is really incredible. And that's what I was getting from readers. And so one of them was Dom Steinmann, and he said, you know what, I'd really love to share my story with you. Would you mind? Yeah, of course, please share your story. I want to hear it. So he said, okay, well, a year ago, I was graduating college. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was recruited by this late stage tech startup in Silicon Valley to be an SDR, so sales development rep. And I said, okay, great, this is fantastic. And he discovered himself in, well, I don't know, I probably shouldn't call it a sweatshop. That's not really very nice, but a room full of SDRs who were all required to make 100 phone calls a day. So they're all, their whole strategy was, let's make cold calls. That's it. And Dom quickly realized that they were hardly ever breaking through. When they were getting through, they were hardly ever having any conversations. And when they were having any conversations, like, none of them were even worth the time. And he was really upset about it and lamenting this to a friend one night over dinner. And the friend said, the dinner wasn't talking, but the friend said, hey, you need to get Stu Heinrich's book, How to Get a Meeting with Anyone. Get this book, you'll love it. So Dom got it, he read it, and he did love it. And the thing that he really attached to was using profile scrapes to send something of great personal value to each person. I mean, each one is a different thing. So he thought, okay, great, I'm going to start doing it. I'll keep making the 100 phone calls, but now I'm going to start researching people that I think would be dream clients. I want to think they're in my top 100 list. I want to start reaching these people. So the first one he went after is someone that no one had been able to reach among the SDR team. No one had been able to reach him. So I said, okay, great. He did a profile scrape and looked around for information. The social media, I'll talk about that in a moment, but social media is a great way to find that, and other sources. And what he found was that this fellow was really into family, cooking, and technology. So he took 2 out of the 3, and he had this apron made up that you see there in the slide, with an Arthur C. Clarke quote, "Any technology sufficiently advanced will appear as magic." Little UFO on there as well. Anyway, made up this barbecue apron and sent it to the fellow. Well, the fellow, well, let's call him Bob again. So Bob immediately got back to him and said, "Hey, this is so cool. This is great." Well, they got into talking, and before you knew it, he had a six-figure deal, and he kept going. Well, the other SDRs, his cohorts were saying, "What are you up to? How are you doing this? And would you teach us? Would you share it with us?" And he said, "Sure." So the first one, one of his colleagues said, "Okay, I've got a guy. Here's another one. No one's been able to reach this prospect or this account. No one's been able to break through." So Dom went to work with him and said, "Okay, what are we doing? Who is this?" And they did a profile scrape. And what they discovered pretty quickly was that this fellow was really into falconry. And falconry is the sport of kings, and they use these ornate gloves. As you can see, there's a falconry glove on the slide as well. They went to a falconry site. They ended up getting on the phone with the owner and asked, "What's the best? We want to send a gift to this fellow, and he's really interested in falconry. What do we send him?" And he pointed him to this glove. "Send him that." Okay, so they bought the glove and they gave the address and had it shipped off to the prospect. Meanwhile, they downloaded they screen grabbed a picture of the glove and they sent an email. The rep said, "Hey, I just sent this to you. Just bought it. It's coming to you. I'm sending it because, of course, I know you love falconry, but also because I really would like to talk with you. I'd like to connect with you and just talk a little bit about what we do and how we might be able to help you." Well, the fellow, remember, this fellow had not been able to be reachable. He wasn't reachable at all. He responded immediately and he said, "Hey, that's pretty cool, but I'm really not a prospect for what you do, but thanks anyway. I really appreciate the thought." Well, then the glove shows up and the fellow gets right back in contact and says, I guess his name was Bob. So Bob gets back in contact and he says, "Hey, Mike, I got the glove. This is great. I love this. Listen, remember when I told you I wasn't a prospect for your service? Well, I'm really not, but I know 3 other CIOs who are, and I'm going to make introductions right now." So more six-figure deals ensued, and pretty soon, this is just spreading all over across the SDR department, and pretty soon the management is noticing what's going on. They're saying, "Well, wait," or they're noticing the change, and they're asking what's going on, and they all pointed to Dom and said, "Well, Dom's the guy. He introduced this thing to us," and they were so impressed they promoted Dom to sales manager, and it was right about the time when the business was sold to I think Cisco Systems for $4.7 billion. It was a $4.7 billion multinational company, and Dom was now sales manager a year out of school, and that's because he used contact marketing and deep personalization. So those are some of those stories, and I hope from these you'll draw some inspiration. You can do deep profile scrapes. You can do profile scrapes and use deep personalization. Anyone can do that. Anyone can buy gifts that are thoughtful and relevant. Anyone can use visual metaphors, although they're a little more challenging to find them. I don't know if anyone can use cartoons. I don't mean to say that cartoons are the only way to do this, but you can see there are a lot of ways to approach this. So the thing, though, that we need to also realize, and the reason why we're on with John on this, is that we also need to target an audience. We've got all this horsepower to point at someone, but how do we find the right people? What kinds of profiling tools are out there? What kind of tools are out there to help us do this? Not only to find them, but really to compile and cultivate our top 100 list, because that just needs to be this living, breathing collection of people who we're going to break through to them. We're going to break through to all of them, and they are going to change our lives. So what do we do? How do we find them? And so there are some really, there's some profiling tools out there. Of course, the old school, I can't believe I even used that, but actually, because I hate the term old school, it's stupid. People are saying, "Oh, it's old school if you're doing something that was done previously, isn't being done now," but what they're doing really is just following the crowd. If everyone else is using email to break through, use something else. Use what works. So anyway, don't be swayed by that term old school. Use what works. And so certainly websites great way great spot to gather insight and intel on these people that are on our top 100 list. I mean, their websites, their company websites, usually their bios are in the websites. There's a press section. Go over their press clippings of stories and discover what they're looking to do, what's important to them. Annual reports are, you know, they're that's a really low tech thing to go after. But look, this is the report that they put together every year to impress, I suppose, their shareholders and the people who'd like to become shareholders or are considering becoming shareholders. This is where they talk about where they're going, what's important to them. This is really important stuff. So use these profiling tools. And then they're a newer school. They're not the latest thing. We'll get to that in a moment. But the newer school things that are all of these social media platforms, which give us just a wealth of information because people are posting all the time. They're talking about what's important to them, and they also they'll pop their screenshot, or not their screenshot, but their profile picture up there. You can use profile pictures for all kinds of things. You can grab that, download it. The thing that I want to say, though, it's a little bit off the subject of profiling now for a moment, but which is why I said sure. But I just want to emphasize that when you connect with someone on LinkedIn or any of these channels, you're really not creating a connection yet. What you've done is open the door, sort of opened maybe permission to create a contact with them or connection with them, but you're not connected with them yet, really. I mean, really, I keep describing when I connect with someone on LinkedIn, it's kind of like waving to someone who's driving the other direction on the freeway. So I wave to them, they're waving back, and boom, the thing's over. And then there's 10 more people that have just come by, and it's not memorable. There's no gravitas to it. You've got to do more. You've got to be multimodal in your communication with these people. At least take it to a DM and see how you can collaborate. See if you can get on the phone with them, do an interview, something. Or one of my favorite tricks, and it's one of my secret weapons. I've got cards with personalized cartoons on them, and I send cartoons. I send cartoon cards to people that are really important to me that I've just connected with on LinkedIn. And you can quite easily believe that when they get these cards with a handwritten note, they're going to keep them. They're going to put them up on their bulletin board or something. They're going to keep. They might even frame it, which I wouldn't want them to do, but because then they'd lose my note. But you've got to do things that are multimodal to actually create these connections. They're great sources of connections, but just linking up, just connecting, that simple, most basic action of connecting isn't actually connecting at all. So, but back to profiling, these are really useful for profiling. But then we come to power tools. Well, there's a new class of tools that I'm sure a lot of you know about many of these tools anyway, that are using AI to bring great new power, certainly to contact marketing. And one of those is Nimble. And I'm really excited because I want to jump to the next segment of our presentation, because we happen to have the founder of Nimble with us today. And I'll just say that one of the things that I think is really wonderful about Nimble, and the thing that I use it for all the time, is when I'm connecting with people. I mean, people reach out to me all the time, and then we get on we end up in an email conversation, and I have the Nimble widget on my Gmail account. I know it integrates with other, I'm sure Outlook and other other email clients, but I use it on Gmail. It sits on the right-hand side of my screen, and so anytime I'm connecting with someone, I can click a couple of buttons and add them to my Nimble account, my customer base or contact base, and it'll grab all kinds of information and actually creates a bit of a dossier. I can discover in a lot of cases where to send things to them, which is great. So it allows me to really compile and cultivate my top 100 list pretty effectively, and that's the way I use it. But I know I'm not a power user of Nimble, and that's why. That's why I'm really happy to be on with John, and why I would like to bring you back in, John, because what I would love to do, it would be amazing. It would be a big honor to have you do this and show all of us really how how you see Nimble serving our mission of connecting with people, but really compiling and cultivating our top 100 list and gathering information and building dossiers.
Well, Stu, first off, thank you so much for sharing that invaluable content about how to break through the door by making yourself unique and standing out from the crowd to create the connections that turn into conversations that result in ideally measurable, mutually beneficial outcomes. One of the things that you did share that really resonated with me is how you need to take relationships from the what I call the business lobby into the softer side of life. Because I think that people connect on what I call the 5 F's of life: family, friend, food, fun, and fellowship. And the fact that you have a LinkedIn connection with a person doesn't mean that you earned their intimacy and trust and created a bridge, a bond that will survive the test of life. And the test of life is interruptions in pricing and delivery and people coming in and undercutting you. And if you have a relationship with another person, they're going to pick up the phone and they're going to tell you what's going on and give you the opportunity to resolve that. And so no matter how you make these connections, you need to deepen these connections into a more personalized state. So if you go and take a walk with me and learn about my loves of life, backpacking, food, family, my children, etc., you're going to learn about ways that we can truly connect. And I think that, Instagram is a perfect place for that. Instagram is a picture tells 1,000 words. And if you want to know John Ferrara, just step through my Instagram feed and you're going to learn about what I care about. And I see so many people's Instagram full of just silly pictures of words or whatever, where it's really more about their business persona. And I think that if you really want people to see you, they need to see your eyes. They need to see you as a person. They need to see you in the state that you really are. This is my nephew's wedding, and you could see my humor, and you could see my personality. And I think that when you do engagement in life, that you need to roll up your sleeves and share your heart and soul. So with all that being said, Stu, what you talked about is generating these connections and conversations. And ultimately, I think that everybody knows that they need to build an identity across all the places where their customers have conversations and drive those people into having conversations. And so what I do is I build my identity across all the places where my customers are having conversations, and I share content to inspire and educate other people about how they can become better, smarter, faster. And that generates these engagements. And what you need to do to be effective is you need to reel in those relationships. You can't just put a fish in the river with bait and have fish bite on it. You got to pull that bite in and start conversations and engage. And so just to sort of give you an idea of kind of what that looks like, with Nimble, what I'm able to do is I'm able to take these conversations, turn on my browser plugin, and to quickly turn these connections into three-dimensional records that have their background information about who they are, what their business is about. I don't have to go and Google these people to learn how they are. I Nimble them. And then what Nimble does is it will go ahead and build this beautiful record. And I could even get their contact info. And I'll demonstrate that by simply going to a Forbes article. Many times you read an article and you want to reel in that relationship. All you have to do is hover on a name. It can even be a string, Satish Dharmaj, into a living and breathing record. And by basically just doing a couple of clicks, and now what I can do is I can go find his contact info, because if you give Nimble first name, last name, company domain name, it will go ahead and give you all the contact info that you need. And it does that in literally seconds. Now, that doesn't mean that you could then go pound this person with unauthentic outreach, because then what you need to do is you need to outreach in a way that's relevant and authentic. And so I'll give you an example, and I'm going to demonstrate using Nimble inside of a CRM, because Nimble can either be your CRM or work within your existing social sales and marketing systems. So I was going to have a meeting with this gentleman named Ken Krogh, and before the meeting, I nimbled him, and Nimble was able to go ahead and build a record for him where I not only learned about him and his business persona, but I learned that he was a Scoutmaster and had 2 Eagle Scout sons. And people connect on the commonalities of life. And I was able to share a story about how I was an assistant Scoutmaster, and that story basically turned it into a trusted relationship where he actually invited me to Utah to meet with his management. And so that's what Nimble does for you. It does it by automatically unifying the contacts from all the places you have, and then basically working where you work, inside your inbox in G Suite or inside of an office. And it also works inside of your business app. So it doesn't matter if you're using another CRM or an accounting system or anything, Nimble will work wherever you work. And I'll leave you with this last story. Because I share content to build my brand and my network on a daily basis, people then engage with me, and Nimble will listen to who's engaging with you and give you signals. So basically, Nimble listens to your email calendar and social, and then will surface people that you should be engaging with. And that's what you see down here inside of our signals area. And what Nimble told me was that there is this person that was talking about me, and it was this gentleman named Rand who was responding to this Salesforce representative who said that CRM isn't about command and control, it's about empowering customer-facing business team members. And he said, no, it's not. It is about command and control. And isn't this what John's been teaching and building with Nimble? So I was able to turn Nimble on. Nimble was able to build a record for this person. It told me that he was head of data and CRM at Disney. I was able to take that relationship from the social, because it gave me the email, and I was able to email directly from within our Prospector app and take that relationship into a LinkedIn conversation where Nimble followed me, where I learned that his daughter, not only lives in my town, but his daughter goes to my school. And I think the more digital we get, the more human we need to be. And I took that relationship to a breakfast, and now it's a lifelong friendship. And that is essentially a quick example of how you can use Nimble to prospect smarter everywhere you work and turn those connections into conversations. Because Stu's teaching you how to break through the door, but once you're breaking through the door, it's the basics that wins games. You need to take that connection and that conversation into a measurable business outcome. So, Stu, tell us about your offer.
Oh, I will, but I just want to say I love that, and certainly all of this points to ways to cultivate that top 100 list too, of the people that you are interested in creating outreach to. That's an incredible story about the director of CRM for Disney, you said?
Data and in CRM, yes.
Data and CRM, that's incredible. So there are all kinds of tools within Nimble to help us create deeper and deeper relationships while we figure out who these people are. I'm talking about building dossiers, but John's actually talking about outreach directly from Nimble to start building these relationships, and certainly finding strategic opportunities to engage in social media. That's brilliant. It's just a great tool. It is a power tool. So, okay, yes, I'll jump ahead. Can you see my slide?
Yes, we have. Okay. I have it up right now. The special offer.
Great. Okay, great. So yes, you can. I guess the first thing is please visit my author site, stuheineck.com, and when you get there, you'll be offered a free sneak preview of my new book, Get the Meeting. You just do that. That's not just because you came here, but I want to make sure you knew it. Then, of course, we talked about the 10 signed copies of Get the Meeting. We're going to get to that in just a moment because we're going to get to questions. But if you don't end up posting them here, man, please do share them. In fact, I would love to have you share them with me anyway. Just send me an email. You see my Gmail account right there, stuheineck@gmail.com. So please join us. And then, John, you have some special offers as well.
We do. For those that aren't using Nimble today, feel free to sign up with this link, and you can go ahead and get a 30-day free trial. Normally, it is only a 2-week trial. And if you do decide to sign up for Nimble, we're going to give you 40% off your first 3 months. Just use the code John40 when you do your conversion. And with that, I'm going to leave you with this other thing. please do connect with us. Let us know how we can help you grow. That's why we're here. That's why we do what we do. It's very easy to find our contact info. In fact, you should do this for yourself. Google yourself. If you don't show up or even fill the first page, then you need to be working on your brand and your network. But here's our contact info. And with that, we have had a series of questions. We will send those questions and answers in the link to the recording for this webinar, so you can listen to it later for sure, Lauren. But beyond that, if you have any questions, now's the last minute time to pop those into the question box. In the meantime, I do know that we have some questions, and let's see if I can go ahead and pop through those quickly. So Max says that he uses Vidyard Video for doing videos, and I shared that I think a picture tells 1,000 words and a video tells 1,000,000. So it's a great way to do that. Chuck Royer says personalization is a key way to build intimacy and trust, and he happened to be an Eagle Scout father as well, and that solidified our depth of our relationship. Thank you, Chuck, for so many years of friendship. Bobby said that after years of getting brushed off for a meeting, she went in person instead of a jacket and skirt. She showed up in a dump truck wearing overalls and red boots. You go, Bobby. And not only did she get the meeting, but she got the deal. And I think that's amazing.
Love it. I love it. That's great.
And then William said that that he challenged CTO to a game of Pong. You know, many CTOs do love to play games, but if you want to know if somebody is going to like to play games, what you want to do is you want to be able to personalize that outreach. And I think that by doing the things that we do with Nimble, you could find out what is it that they are about and how to build a bridge of commonality with them. Another person said that they used LinkedIn connection and turned it into a huge deal. And it started on LinkedIn, went to email, went to personally handwritten notes, and then turned into a face-to-face meeting. I 100% agree with you, Andrew, that the more digital grit, the more human we need to be, and you need to go face-to-face. I think that people forget the power of picking up the effing phone and actually going and seeing somebody. I like to call somebody every day in my contact list that I prioritize with Nimble, because I think that people have forgotten the power of the voice. Can Nimble be used for nonprofits? 100%. If you want a case study, let us know. I saw that you're using Salesforce. Is Nimble not all-in-one CRM? I don't use Salesforce. I use it for demonstration, because there are people that are forced. I like to joke, but it's true. The reason they call it Salesforce, that's to force salespeople to use it. Nobody in the right mind would use a CRM if they weren't beat on to do it. And that's why your CRM should be built for relationships and contact management at its heart. And that's what Nimble is. And the core of Nimble is a really great contact manager, but we also enable you to manage deals, etc. But if you work at a company and they force you to use a CRM, I think you should use Nimble in conjunction with that, because your brand and your network are your net worth, and you should bring your brand and your network to work with you and use it to power your deals, but then also build your golden Rolodex for the future. So no, we don't use Salesforce at Nimble. I use it for demonstration to show that you could use Nimble inside of any business app, including inside of HubSpot, which the founder of HubSpot is actually an investor in Nimble. And he often quotes that the way that they built HubSpot was emulating what we did at Goldmine. And with that, I think that we are all set. Stu, why don't you leave us with some parting words?
Well, for one, here's how you contact us. Again, I started with the statement. Really, it's often a headline that I use in my own ads, that one meeting really can change everything. And I think that it's possible to get a meeting with anyone. Sometimes they'll resist. Sometimes you'll have to persist. But if it's important enough to you and to them, you've got to make it important enough to them that you can break through. And when you do, meetings, as I said also at the outset, are the source of all the great things that happen in our lives. All the big advancements in our lives happen because we make those connections.
Awesome advice, Stu. Thank you again for sharing your wisdom. I'm going to leave us with a drop of wisdom that Leslie shared with us. She said that she found out that a vendor let a prospect down. She made a comment about them leaving a sour taste in her mouth. And the next morning, Leslie sent edible fruit dipped in chocolate, and basically saying that working with them would be a sweet treat and permanently remove the sour taste. And now they're not only friends, but customers as well. Love these stories. Love connecting with our community. Thank you, Stu. Thank you, audience, for your valuable time. And with that, have an amazing Thursday. Good luck and good selling.